Hi, and welcome to Jules Voto's Photo Focus. In this video, I want to talk about a Carl Zeiss 25mm 2.8 Distagon lens in ZF.2 mount for Nikon F. The ZF.2 mount means that it has a CPU. So when you use it on a Nikon mirrorless camera or DSLR, you don't have to input non-CPU data. And also all the metering works. Okay, so I used Carl Zeiss lenses back when I was shooting Hasselblad, and I love them. Very well made, great sharpness, great contrast. I mean, just the results from those lenses were great, great construction. Same holds true for this as far as construction. This thing weighs a ton. It's just over a pound or 480 grams. So it's no lightweight, it's all metal. Even the focusing ring is metal. On some of the Nikon lenses that are all metal construction, the focusing ring is rubberized. So just a little bit on the specs on this lens. One of the things I really like about it is it focuses really close, just over 6 inches from the film plane. And I'm going to do just a quick comparison with Nikon's 24 2.8. Problem with that though is when you are that close, there's almost no room from the front element to your subject. I mean, it's minuscule. So difficult to get light onto your subject, especially if you have the lens hood on. It takes 58mm filters. It has 10 elements in 8 groups, 9-bladed aperture, and nice thing, and this doesn't hold true for a lot of third-party lenses, it focuses in the same direction as the Nikon lenses do. Nikon and Pentax focus in one direction, Minolta, Leica, Canon all focus in the opposite direction. Also, the aperture is in the same direction. The aperture ring turns in the same direction as the Nikon lenses. So to go to a smaller aperture, you turn it to the right. To go to a larger aperture, you turn it to the left. Same as Nikon lenses. Real quick comparison with Nikon's 24 2.8. Now just a couple things about this 24 2.8. This is the AIS version. This was my go-to lens, or one of my go-to lenses when I shot for a weekly newspaper. I didn't have zooms at that time. I had a 24, a 35, a 50, and actually I had a longer zoom. But this lens I really loved. I loved the view of it, of the the wide angle. It was good for some environmental portraits and just a lot of things. Now the Zeiss is a 25mm, but actually it measures 25.7. So it's kind of in between a 24 and a 28. But I like the focal length very much. And so the 24 AIS is 9 elements in 9 groups. It focuses down to 1 foot from the film plane, has 7-bladed aperture, but it only weighs 9 ounces or 250 grams. So let's get back to the Zeiss. Like I said, it's extremely well made. You pick it up and you feel the quality. Another nice thing with the Zeiss, it has a bayonet lens hood, just like the CF lenses for the Hasselblad that I used. Okay, so I really like that. If you need to replace a filter, you just quickly take it off and unscrew the filter. Whereas with the Nikon, the filters and the hoods screw in. Okay, so why did I buy this lens when I already had the Nikon 24 2.8? It's because it was a Zeiss lens. I was able to get it cheap. And like I said, I love the Zeiss lenses for my Hasselblad. I figured, guess what? This is available for the Nikon. Let me give it a shot. Plus, it was a little bit different focal length than my 24. And I figured I would give it a shot. Also because of the close focus, I thought that could come in handy. I like to take pictures of flowers and do some landscape type stuff with something in the foreground really close, and then showing, let's say, the mountains in the background and so forth. So I thought this would be a cool lens for that. Now, I got it, like I said, at a good price, used in the box with the hood. It looked brand new. And this lens sold for a little over $1,000 when I got it. I would say it was maybe 6 years ago. I paid like $5 and change on the used market, so I thought I got a really good deal, and I did. It's definitely a good deal when you get a lens at half price that's, you know, as good as new. But after I bought it, I started reading some test reports, and some of them were not very good, especially the ones that relied on, you know, MTF curves and other numerical data indicating the sharpness of the lens, the vignetting, and so forth and so on. Other people's reports that I read made no mention of those things. These were actual users of the lens, and they seemed to like it. So I honestly didn't use it a lot at that time, and I still don't. But like I said, I bought it because it's a Zeiss lens, and I was so impressed with them for the Hasselblad. This lens worked great with my DSLRs, but I really love using it with my mirrorless cameras. But again, I don't use it that much. So I took it with me because I wanted to do a video on it to a little family gathering for Memorial Day. And my cousin usually has a lot of flowers. I figured, well, I'll go, you know, shoot pictures of the flowers. Unfortunately, she didn't have that many. She didn't get to purchase her flowers yet. But we had some, my kids were there, some of my nieces, so I was able to take some pictures of them. And so we're going to look at those pictures in a second, but let me just give my overall impression. There is vignetting, as with most lenses, at 2.8, at f4. You'll see that in a couple of the pictures you will be seeing shortly. By f5.6, that's gone. So I don't think it's a big issue. But overall, I think the lens is very sharp. I didn't shoot it at infinity. I didn't really have any landscape type pictures to shoot, but I shot it at different distances, from very close to medium distances. I did some room shots, and again, you're going to take a look at those in a minute. But overall, I'm very impressed with the lens. I like the look of this lens. It's hard to put into words. I like the way it renders color. And skin tones, I thought were really good. I wouldn't hesitate to use this lens for, you know, small group photos, for some interior photos if the focal length is wide enough, and you'll see a few of those, and for flowers. So before we look at the pictures, let me just leave you with a final word, and, you know, as far as my overall impression of this lens. I love shooting with high quality glass. And this is high quality glass. The Nikon lenses are great, they're made very well, but this just feels better. You know it's metal. I love the bayonet lens hood. The focus is extremely smooth, and it's a pretty long throw on the focus, so you could get really precise focus with this lens. I like the fact that it has half click stops, although when using it, if I use it on a manual camera, such as my F2, those half stops have really come in handy. As I stated before, you know, Minolta, Pentax, and some others have half click stops. Nikon doesn't. So I really like the half click stops if using it on a film camera, but on a digital camera, you have to have the aperture locked down to f/22, or else you're going to get an error message on the camera. So before we go look at the pictures, and it's only a few I'm going to show you, would I buy this lens again? And the answer is no. Not that it's a bad lens, it's just that it's not much different than the 24 Nikkor lens. I use mostly zooms today, although I love playing around with the older manual focus lenses. But so for the kind of money this lens cost, I don't think I would buy it again. I don't regret buying it because I got to try it out. I've had it for, like I said, about 6 years. And I would have always wondered, well, how good is that Zeiss lens? Because I really like the 25mm focal length. So sometimes there may be an item that you want, and like I wanted a Zeiss lens for my digital cameras, and maybe I should have thought about it a little bit more, or did a little bit more research, or you know, I saw it for a good price and I jumped at it. And sometimes we make a bad decision. And I know many of us photographers are kind of gearheads, I guess you could say, and we buy a little too much. And I have too many lenses. Actually, I'm selling some of them now, but so I would not buy this lens again. All right, so let's go look at some pictures and see what you think. Okay, these were all shot with aperture priority on my Nikon Z8 auto exposure. And you can see here in the upper left, upper right, and the lower right and left, some vignetting, but the image is sharp. The focus was on that sun and moon thing up top, and it's very sharp. You may not be able to tell in these images, but it is. So at f4, we still have some vignetting, but again, sharpness is good. The lower item, I guess that's, I don't know what it's supposed to be. Is that supposed to be a sun? Is a little less sharp, but that's because I wasn't perfectly parallel to the objects. Here we are at 5.6. The vignetting is pretty much gone. And, you know, sharpness improves, and so does depth of field. So that lower item is even is sharper. And then at f8, of course, it's just about perfect. No vignetting at all. And we have really good sharpness. So then I wanted to do something close, since its lens focus is so close. This is handheld at 2.8. It was a little breezy. My focus was on the center of that larger flower, but I just like the overall look. It's not very sharp. I should have had a tripod. Now here's some other, I'm not sure what kind. I'm not good on my flowers, unfortunately. But I really like the color. The green really jumps out. This was standard picture control on the Nikon. So here's my son. He wasn't too happy. My oldest son, he wasn't too happy about being photographed, but that was at 5.6. And I mean, I really like, I mean, it looks good. The sun, they were kind of a little bit backlit. Sun was to the back a little bit. Now here are two of my guys at 2.8. The focus was on the guy on the right. The other one in the background is a little out of focus because of depth of field. Here we are at f4, but I mean, the rendering on this lens is really good. The contrast is nice. It's not overly contrasty. I think it's really good for people pictures. And then my nieces came, and before they could get into the house, I stopped them for a quick picture, and they love being photographed. I photographed them many times before, and this is at f8, and you know, I think it looks great. So now I went inside and just did a few interior shots, and I used some bounce flash with a Godox flash. This is at 5.6. And, you know, the sharpness is fine. Pretty much edge to edge. That chair on the left that you see a little bit of is out of focus, and that piece of furniture on the right, but they were, you know, right at the edges. Now, this lens is sharp, but I've seen sharper. But sharpness isn't always the most important thing. Obviously, a poor lens where everything is unsharp is not good, but I just like the look of this lens. Just look at how it renders the objects in this photo. And so I like this lens, and like I said, and I'll probably keep it unless I could get a good price selling it. But well, let me know what you think, and if you have this lens, let me know how you feel about it. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So I will talk to you then.